One conventional understanding of musical meter views it as a coordination of equally spaced beats within a multi-level hierarchy, such as in a quadruple meter, which implies a stronger beat every 4/4 notes. In contrast to this periodic, grid-based perspective, Christopher Hastie proposes an alternative approach in his book Meter as Rhythm. As defined in this theory, the sensation of meter is process-based and relies on assessing durational reproduction rather than predefined pulse hierarchies. This video will introduce the key concepts and symbols central to Hastie's theory, particularly the idea of projection. Two examples will then illustrate how this theory effectively addresses situations where pulse and pulse hierarchy are too irregular, sporadic, or even absent. For Hastie, the duration defined by the onsets of two events is crucial for temporal perception. A solid curved arrow, sometimes labelled with an uppercase letter, represents this duration. At the onset of the second event, B, which defines duration Q, listeners mentally project this duration into the future, with the arrowhead indicating its projective nature. This projection is symbolized by a dashed curved line with the potential for durational repetition marked by a prime symbol next to the corresponding label. As listeners anticipate this durational reproduction, they evaluate the timing of upcoming events. Different metric sensations emerge based on how the timing of the next event aligns with the projection. For example, if the third event, C, arrives such that the projected duration Q' equal Q, the projection is considered realized. This can happen even if the third event is slightly early or late, as long as the reproduced duration is conceptually isochronous to Q. In such cases, any shortening or lengthening of the duration can be represented by accelerando and retardando symbols above the dashed arc. However, if the third event arrives too soon or too late, the projection is disrupted. A premature arrival of C interrupts the realization of Q', represented by a vertical stroke cutting off the dashed arc. Conversely, if an event fails to occur within the projection's time frame, a strong sense of termination arises, resulting in a metrical hiatus, indicated by two vertical strokes. Finally, there may be instances where the initial duration fails to become projective, marked by a question mark above the solid arrow, indicating that no second event B occurs to confirm a definite time span after the first event A. Now, let's examine our first example, where Nancy Murphy applies the theory of projection to illustrate the ambiguous meter created by ungrouped beats and unrealized durations in the opening of Buffy Sainte-Marie's Sir Patrick Spens. Focus on the durations and associated temporal sensations marked by the double bass attacks, where their inter-onset intervals are indicated in milliseconds between the staves.
The king sitting, doom fell into drinking the blood water.
At the beginning, two anacrustic notes A2 lead to the DA fifth in the double bass, accompanied by mouthbow strumming. While the mouthbow onsets are too rapid to serve as tactus beats, they can be heard as subdivisions of the double bass durations. However, a sense of metric regularity does not emerge, as the double bass articulations are too sparse to realize any durational reproduction. For example, the transition to A3 after the initial open fifth establishes duration Q, but this note fades amid the mouthbow strumming with no subsequent double bass attack to realize the projected duration Q', resulting in a hiatus. Similarly, the following open fifths exhibit ambiguity as their events occur too far apart, preventing the potential durations R and S from becoming projective. The next passage, where the voice enters, features greater metric salience. Sainte Marie's first vocal accent on the word in aligns with the double bass dyad, confirming duration V when the next accented dyad arrives 2700 milliseconds later. The subsequent DA fifth coincides with the nadir of the word town, marking a duration conceptually isochronous with V, and realizing the projection for the first time. This successful durational reproduction establishes a longer projective duration W, potentially creating a strong weak relationship between the accented dyads. However, the anticipated weak beat following projection W' is interrupted by the premature arrival of the first syllable of drinking, resetting the durational projection. Overall, the metric instability in this introduction reflects the song's tragic narrative. Let's listen to this passage again, focusing sharply on the unrealized durations with the help of annotations.
The king sits in, doom fell into, drinking the blood water.
Before turning to the second example, let's explore additional temporal sensations related to durational projection. We've seen that an event arriving much later than projected can cause a metrical hiatus. When a third event arrives too early, it disrupts the original projection and may lead listeners to subordinate the second event, focusing on a new, longer duration initiated by the first event, resulting in a change of scope. Conversely, certain rhythms can prompt listeners to reorient their attention to the onset of the second event, effectively resetting a new, more salient projection. In addition to the various arc forms indicating components of projection, Hastie introduces symbols known as projective functions to represent the rhythmic qualities of events. A vertical stroke denotes the dominant beginning of a duration, while a rightward slash suggests a continuation, where a subordinate event contributes to the ongoing duration. The later this subordinate event occurs, the more it functions as an anacrusis, anticipating the duration's completion and leading to the next event, indicated by a leftward slash. With these representational tools in mind, let's move on to our second example featuring sitarist Buddhaditya Mukherjee's performance of a typical alap, an improvised unaccompanied prelude that lacks a regular rhythmic pulse. As we listen to the opening, observe how the Raga Puriya Kalyan is gradually introduced. Each system in this transcription corresponds to the three phrases of the opening, each concluding with three rapid drone string chords accompanied by sustained core melodic notes. First the tonic, then the scale degree 7, and finally the third scale degree. Using Hastie's theory, John Roeder identifies rhythmic strategies in this performance that engage listeners' projections of durational repetition, shaping the process across longer passages. Initially, Rhoda hears a consistent realization of projections between the drone string chords, with the number under each dotted arc specifying the ratio of the replicated duration to that indicated by the preceding solid arc, varying within 5%. The new downward gesture highlights a repetition of a medium-length duration. However, when listeners anticipate another replication of shorter durations after the upward arpeggiation, no event occurs, creating a sense of hiatus at the shorter timescale, even as the longer duration is about to be reproduced. The ongoing pattern of durational reproduction is disrupted at the end of the first phrase. The second-to-last drone string chord arrives unexpectedly early, shifting listeners' focus to a shorter duration, which is not reproduced either. The final chord, occurring simultaneously with a long-held melodic tonic, also arrives prematurely. Although it redirects the listeners to a new projective duration between events C and D, no events follow within that projection, resulting in a hiatus that makes the next attack feel like as a fresh beginning. The second phrase follows a similar temporal process as the first, with some variations. At first, the drone string chords re-establish continuity by reproducing longer durations. While the medium-length durations suggested by the arpeggiating gestures in the first phrase felt out of time, in this phrase they interact with the chords to produce and replicate shorter durations, particularly between moments E and F, where the chords and melodic pitches create two nested levels of realized projections. The end of this phrase parallels the first, marked by metrical contraction and a change of scope, ultimately sinking into a hiatus. The final phrase exhibits further temporal variations, suggesting a larger-scale strategy of durational successions. Initially, the drone string attacks appear to initiate and realize durational projections, like earlier phrases. Projective function symbols reinforce this connection, as each drone string chord marks the beginning of a duration, followed by a low-pitch attack that continues it. However, this orientation to the drone string chords is less stable than in the previous two phrases, evidenced by the unrealized projection at J. At this moment, the melodic seventh scale degree becomes more prominent, signaling a shift in metrical initiative. The onsets of the sevenths may then be perceived as regularly initiating and realizing durational projections, with the drone string chords serving as anacracies, leading to the melodic sevenths. The idea that melodic pitches signify important beginnings is prepared in the second phrase, where the melodic tonic and the first appearance of the seventh realize local projections. The ending of the third phrase also varies. While the final three-chord succession arrives too quickly to allow for durational reproduction, the duration from L to M is reproduced from M to the next drone string chord, maintaining continuity past the held melodic pitches into the remaining part of the alap without hiatus. Let's listen to this passage again and appreciate the multifaceted metrical process suggested. By understanding how durational projection illuminates the metrical sensation in the performances of Sainte Marie and Mukherjee, it is hoped that you have grasped a basic understanding of Hasty's theory of process-based meter. To delve deeper into this theory, consider Hasty's book, which offers a robust theoretical framework alongside detailed analyses of works by Monteverdi, Schütz, Webern, and Babbitt. Roeder extends this theory beyond Indian classical sitar performance to analyse free rhythm music from around the globe. Regarding popular music, while we've seen how Murphy analyses metric ambiguity in St. Mary's Song, Robin Attas focuses on projection in regular groove-based music. For insights into meter in early 20th century post-tonal compositions, Muniz and Blattler offer analyses of works by Schoenberg and Ravel. I hope you enjoyed this video and wish you a fruitful investigation ahead. Thank you for watching.